A cotton fertility challenge with our friends from AgroLiquid. The results are in, and they're going to surprise you just a little bit. Pretty exciting stuff we're talking about here on XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
Welcome to XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast, where real farmers share real insights and real results to help you improve your farming operation. And now, here's your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode. This is a special episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve. We're doing a whole series of these videos with our friends from AgroLiquid. We've got Stephanie Zelinko here. If you've paid attention to what we've done, each of the guys hosted a competition on their farms, and they also did multiple trial competitions, if you will, on their farms with prescriptions for fertility set by the other guys. So at Matt Miles' farm, because he's our only cotton producer at XtremeAg, they put in 3 different competition plots. One was prescribed by Matt, since it's his farm. One was prescribed by Kevin Matthews. One by Kelly Garrett. Neither of those two guys grow cotton, so you assume that they obviously are going to flop, but they had assistance from our friends at AgroLiquid. The goal was 3.5 bale cotton, which Matt has taught me means 1,750 pounds, and they wanted to do so with a $50 foliar budget. The results are in. The cotton is harvested. Matt is coming to us. Here it is, October. The cotton pickers might still be running down there, but he freed up some time to give this information so that you can learn from it. Whether you're a cotton producer or not, it's all about some of the cool same fundamentals of how to get more with less and cutting back on your fertility spend and giving the right nutrients at the right time. Matt, what'd you find out?
Well, I found out it was very much a success. Luckily, I didn't lose this year. Last year in the corn challenge, I lost to Kelly. This year, I beat Kelly, but I only beat him by 6 pounds. So statistically difference, we were basically the same.
6 pounds on 1,800 pounds.
Yeah, 6 pounds on that. Yeah, I was 1,806. He was 1,800.
Yeah.
Statistically, there's no difference there, but I will tell you this, when we set the 3.5 bale, goal, I was highly doubtful that any of us would reach it. And we definitely reached it with this program. And, we were all able to choose out of a portfolio of products, and everybody done something a little bit different. Kelly and I was more similar in what we did than what Kevin did. Kevin's going to go off and do his own thing all the time. So we knew that up front. But, all of them are really good yields, and all of them, I'm pretty, I was very comfortable with all of them.
Understood. So you put in 3 different competitive fields. How different? Okay, you did 1,806 pounds. That's the result. You win. Kelly's 1,800 pounds. Like you said, not a huge difference on that big of a yield anyway. What was Kevin's number?
1,724. Okay.
So the fertility and Stephanie and somebody from AgroLiquid oversaw all this. How much did it vary? Stephanie, how big of a difference was there? Okay, I've got $50 for foliar fertility treatment. How different was it?
So the first biggest difference was Kevin just took those dollars and split it into 2 applications. So only went out twice at the first and third timing. Kelly chose all 4 timings. So he took his total and split it in 4 equal parts, put it out 4 times, where Matt made 2 different programs, 1 application at the first and third, and then a different mix for the second and fourth. So they all approach timing differently. As far as nutrients, yeah, you look across, they're pretty similar. You focused on the big nutrients that cotton likes, potassium, boron. All of them included that in one form or another, but the ratios kind of were a little bit different, and their timings were dramatically different.
Understood. All right. So a person that's skeptical and says, well, you know what? Maybe you just threw a whole bunch of dry out. Your only competition was on the $50 foliar fertility. Did you change your approach with the preseason and the fertility mix that went in, or were they all the same? Matt.
Now, re-explain that.
Did everybody get? A skeptic might look at these numbers and say, well, Matt might have just juiced it ahead of time with a bunch of dry fertility before the crop went out, or were all of these plots treated the same with the exception of the foliar fertility?
They were all treated the same. They had a base fertility on them. Everybody's going to put a base fertility. It was 1.25 tons chicken litter, and then we do a variable rate potassium application from that. But when we do that, we do know we reserve enough room there As Stephanie said, potassium was cotton's one of the biggest users of potassium there is out there. I took 6 tissues in the middle of the year, and all of them sucked on potassium. So, and another one that we have a lot of trouble with is calcium. I can't keep a sufficient calcium level in a tissue test during reproductive stage of cotton. I've never been able to do that. You can aid to it and you can band-aid it, but you cannot get enough calcium sufficiently. Go to south of Dallas where Todd farms. He's got too much calcium in his tissue sample. So it just depends on the dirt and where you're at and what's going on. What I tried to do was take my most important nutrients to a cotton plant and make sure that I had those on all 4 trips. And then my micro, I split up in between. But I relied heavy on potassium and calcium because that's 2 things that, as we've took tissue samples over the years, that if we're going to be deficient in 2 nutrients in a tissue sample mid-season cotton, those are the 2 we're going to be deficient in.
Did you do cotton last year, Stephanie? I get it, you cover a lot of ground, but cotton's not your thing.
It's not, and this is the first year with heavy trial work through innovation groups that we have done cotton. We actually are making a big push towards cotton. So we have a lot of new cotton trials coming out in the entire Southeast. So, Texas through Matt's area, that will have a lot of data to build for this coming season.
So AgroLiquid wants to make a push into cotton country. You did so with this. What'd you learn?
So I learned, number one, I think the biggest take home is, Kelly, Kevin, don't grow cotton. You can grow any crop if you know the basics of agronomics. So I think that's, don't be scared by new crops.
They weren't taking care of it. They just texted their prescription and Matt did it. So let's not give these guys too much credit. I'm not sure they can still.
But from fertility, like a lot of people freak out that they don't want to try a new crop because they don't know what nutrients it needs. All plants need nutrients in general. Just figuring out what those key nutrients are and addressing them, you can fertilize any crop you want. From this trial, I learned that, again, there's a lot of ways to get to that same endpoint. Kelly focused really hard on some of those micros, added some additional calcium in, a fulvic acid in. He got to the same point as Matt did at a little bit simpler approach. So I think there's a lot of ways that you can get to that same endpoint. Again, if you know those nutrients that crop really, really desires.
Well, I do think this in Kevin's defense, and I looked at the yield map, and the field was almost as even as you could be as far as a yield map. I didn't put Kevin in a worse spot. Now, he could have been, one different pass in that field that's in a bad spot. That's something you just have to work with and hope for the best. But Kevin was actually trying to save money based on piggybacking these into, save trips. And I think what maybe he didn't realize with cotton is we're going to go over 6 times, at least 6 times anyway. I mean, if we'd want to split this up into 6 applications, we could have had. Yeah. But, he was trying on the other end to say, okay, we're going to save $7 an acre on a trip. Twice, that's $14 an acre. And that's just a misconception. If you're looking at corn or beans, that's going to absolutely happen. But when you're going over cotton, you've got plenty of time to put whatever you want to out whenever you want to.
Valid point right there. So the person listening to this, that's a big takeaway. Yeah, a lot of people listening to this don't grow cotton, right? They're in Nebraska, whatever. But the point is, there's times when trip cost is big. $7 an acre or something like that. If you're going to give yourself a return to diesel, wear and tear on equipment, hour, for your hired hand or whatever, you're going across cotton every week or 10 days, right?
Yep. About every 10 days, we're going over for plant bugs in our area. Now, there's other areas where it's not as much, but you're still going to normally get 3 to 5 applications on a cotton crop, no matter where you are in the United States.
Can you cut back, Stephanie, on some of the other stuff? He talked about, 1.5 tons of litter and all these things. Do you think that if we're in tight margins, there's still room to be, is there still fat to be trimmed?
I think you have to look at that overall system approach. You can't just cut back in one area. You have to figure out which area is the best place to cut back. So it could be, he's already doing things right. He variable rate his dry out there. That's a place to cut back, that you're not over applying on those, higher levels of the field. I think you just have to kind of look at that and then set that budget. Foliars are where people tend to cut back. And we proved that, putting 4 applications out really was better than 2 like Kevin did. So kind of mix and match those nutrients and set that budget and then look to cut back that way. You need a good base no matter where you start with.
Well, you've got the good base, Damon. And then with a foliar is not a fix-all. a foliar, in my opinion, and Stephanie may disagree, is a Band-Aid for that point in time. If that plant's needing something at that point in time, that foliar is going to go in there and take care of the problem. Well, if you spoon feed that, then you take care of the problem 4 times instead of twice. So if you're taking medicine, they tell you to take it twice daily, and you take it once, you're probably not going to get the same effect as if you take it twice daily. And it's the same thing with these foliars. They're not the haymaker punch. They're the small jab. And so you're just jabbing at that plant all the time. And they don't have to be cotton. We feel the same way about the other crops too. Now, we do limit some of those applications based on, it's hard to go out there and take a foliar and just do a specific, application just for that. So it makes it easier on cotton. But that's what we talk about on corn. Most people quit their corn after tassel, or right there after tassel. And there's still a lot of money to be made.
Right.
Same thing with cotton, same thing with soybeans. Those later applications of foliar fertilizer will give you seed size. It gives you more lint in a bowl of cotton. So, you can just keep going. So, that's where I think sometimes we fall short is we don't finish the crop because we're tired. We're hitting the easy button and we don't have any money. So, you take those 3 things together, it's a lot of guys will quit. I find myself, you have to push yourself to do some of this at the end of the year.
So what do you think the add-on is? Stephanie, maybe from your perspective, you're not a cotton producer, but you talk about the fundamentals of agronomics. By doing that last pass, obviously it needs to pay for itself. Is that the difference between 1,724 pounds and 1,800 pounds?
I think that's hard to determine widespread. Weather is going to play the biggest part. And that's where I tell guys I like those foliar applications is it's an opportunity to boost a crop if you have a good season that you're finishing up. But you can also save money that if it turns hot and dry and you don't think you're going to get any additional yield out of that crop, then you can save those dollars and not make that application.
Man, I just pulled up my computer or my calculator right here. I think, are we talking 70 cents? What's a pound of cotton?
I just leaned over and done the math. So the difference in Kevin's yield and Kelly's yield is $52.50.
See, you're going exactly where I was going to go, man. You already knew what I was thinking. So I was going 76 pounds. Let's call you the high end and him and Kevin the low end. So if Kelly's the average, which I know that yours and his are really close, 76 pounds, is it 69 cents? What's a pound of cotton?
I would call it 70 cents, the rebate from the gin and all.
Okay.
It's a little over our total spend.
Yeah, so you said $53.20. So that's the entire spend. Right. That's the entire spend right there. And if you're saying that you think the difference on that really happened because of that last timed application, you can justify, even if you weren't going out already, which you were because cotton gets sprayed over so many times, you can justify one last pass for $53.
That's right. And I'm not going to sit here and say that the last pass was the most important pass. On a cotton plant, when it starts fruiting, you better have all your nutrients there that it needs because it starts at the bottom, goes to the top, and uses the same nutrients from the first bowl it produces to the last bowl it produces. Now, it uses more on the first ones. They're bigger normally. They're more, they've got more value to them. But that plant needs that nutrition all the time. That's where I feel like, and I may be wrong, that the systems approach of splitting applications up, we do that on our grower standard. We're always putting some type of micro and some type of potassium in that plant all through its reproductive stage because it's doing the same thing at the bottom as it is at the top. Corn's going to make the 1 ear. There's certain times you can dictate a corn plant, depending on when the row's around or the length. And cotton's doing it all day long. Every day it's putting on a new bloom or a bowl. The biggest thing is you're trying to stick all those.
I got one more question staying with you. Okay. People like me from Indiana, we don't know much about growing cotton. So corn, soybeans, test weight, moisture, foreign material that's in your load. Obviously, if there's some kind of vomitoxin, things like that. But in general, those are your quality issues that either you get paid or you get docked. What are the quality issues that nutrition would matter for in cotton? I know they talk about fiber length, but that's more varietal or geographical. So what does this foliar, 1,800 pounds, is it just pounds or is there a quality thing that you could justify being better at your nutrition?
Well, a lot of it is varietal, but the happier you are with the happier the plant is, the less stress the plant has, it's going to give its full potential. And cotton is based on color. Number one is the color, and that has nothing to do with any kind of fertility other than the fact if you've got big, pretty, healthy, fluffy bolls, they're going to tend to be, nicer color. I think all those are affected by the nutrients in them. You can see like a dryland corner or something, where you don't get the irrigation on it. It'll be little knotty bowls that don't fully develop. They'll have a dingy color to them. So I really think that the nutrients matter through the whole thing. The thickness of the fiber, the length of the fiber. Something we did get in this year is the cotton was so good. The seed, they call it fragile. So we're having seed fragments that are busting up as we're harvesting and getting in the sample. So that's costing us some money there. But that really has nothing to do with nutrients. I almost think that the cotton just tried to outdo itself, and less value went to the seed, more value went to the lint. But I think all those things in combination, and Stephanie may agree or disagree, a happy plant is going to produce a happy crop.
Yeah, I agree completely. And we've always said that.
Keep your plant. She generally agrees.
No, for this case, I agree. If you have a healthy crop, it's going to produce more. So it just kind of goes back to that overall plant health, whether it comes from nutrition or something else, that's always going to produce the better crop in the end.
Man, we talked about plant health, and Kelly's big thing is about plant balance. And then if you have the right health and have the right soil and you have the right balance, then you can cut back on things like pesticides and fungicides, et cetera. Is that a reality in cotton? Because I know I say this all the time, because when the first time I went to a cotton field and talked to Matt told me cotton's a plant that looks to die every day. That's what his old man told him. So did you learn anything about nutrition here that makes it so you can cut back on some of the harsh pesticides and fungicides?
We did not apply fungicide. The fungicide is not a mandatory thing for cotton like it is for soybeans. It actually is on corn for us too. I know in the Midwest, they've had a tremendous amount of trouble with southern rust. We get that. They've never had it. We get that, but we get it late enough in the season that it really don't affect yield. Soybeans, we're going to be mandatory fungicide. There's biopesticides out there that the goal is to reduce it. Now, I'm in one of the highest infestation of insects that there is in the world, I think. Even when you go southeast over into Georgia and Alabama and places like that, they don't have the insect pressure that we have here. Don't know what the difference is, but where we spray 6 times, they may spray 3 to 4. So, the perfect world is going to be that we get that reduced. They're working with different things that, will enhance that. There's a product out there that you can use on soybeans that actually kills the larvae. Can't remember the name of it. So it's being worked on. Today's world, if you don't spray insecticides, you're probably not going to have enough cotton crop to stay in business. Now, the GMO part of it is where that's really saved us. A lot of people are anti-GMO, but would you rather have tons of pesticides on your crop, or would you rather have a genetically modified crop that you don't have to put them on? Yeah. And that's where, I think they're making more strides there. We pretty much have reduced spraying for the cotton bollworm at all. If you plant the right gene, you don't have to worry about it. Our biggest intruder is going to be plant bugs, and then probably aphids would be next.
So, Stephanie, by the way, yeah, that's a different topic for a different story, but the consumer still believes that GMO equals more chemistry as opposed to genetically engineered seed traits made it so we could reduce chemistry and insecticides. And a lot of people, that seems to be the biggest marketing mistake ever made by the entire industry 30 years ago was not communicating that. If they'd have gone out with an environmental message, it would have been great.
Yeah, everybody love it.
Stephanie, last thought here. Anything that surprise you?
I
don't know if you even knew what 3.5 bales was. It'd be like me saying, "Hey, Stephanie, on your farm in Central Michigan, let's shoot for 30 bushel soybeans and see if we can get it done." You're like, do that all day long.
Right. Yeah, I think the yield is probably what surprised me the most, because we did set the bar really high. Like, the idea behind this was to get something that maybe wasn't achievable, but hope that we would add enough fertility that we could get closer. So I'm excited for Matt that we were able to actually meet or exceed a little bit that yield goal. So that probably surprised me the most. Is it 100% fertility? Probably not. Environment plays a big role to that. But I like to think that, having a good fertility program helped maintain that yield and get him to that final spot.
I think we're gonna leave it there. So we're gonna do this again.
Absolutely.
I like the idea. I'm learning about cotton. I learn everything I know about cotton. I've learned because of XtremeAg. That's right there, right? About what? 2 pounds of cotton goes into a pair of jeans. So we're talking about 900 pairs of jeans came out of Matt's plot, right? I mean,
You know those numbers better than I do.
anyway, it seems Matt Miles with XtremeAg. She's Stephanie Zelinko with AgroLiquid. We've got more of these fertility challenge results coming. This is the first one recording because you might imagine cotton was the first one to be completed. Because
Second one, we did wheat already.
Oh, that's
This is
right.
the
Second one. We did
one.
wheat already. Because, of course, if you're still harvesting wheat in October, you got a problem. So that's right. We've done wheat. We've done cotton. Look for our soybean and our corn. The corn one's kind of cool because we did both dry land and we did irrigated. And on soybeans, I think we did, we talked about double crop versus, yeah, right. So we've got some really cool stuff. So we've got multiple more results from you. We've got dry land and irrigated corn results that are going to be recorded when we get those results in. The combines haven't run yet. And on soybeans, it's double crop, or as our southern friends call them, wheat beans, and then also standard conventional growth. So stay tuned for that. Look at all the cool stuff we've done with the Economic Fertility Challenge with AgroLiquid. It's a series of special episodes here at Cutting the Curve. Also, look at all the cool videos that guys like Matt and the other XtremeAg guys do out in the field to help you learn. You can go to XtremeAg.farm. There's a library of videos there, all free, categorized by season, by crop, by... Just go there, XtremeAg.farm. Hundreds of videos plus hundreds of episodes of this show right here. If you like what you're seeing while you're on the website, also click on The Granary. That's the show that's shot here at my farm in Indiana with guests just like Stephanie and Matt, who have both been here for episodes of The Granary. Check it all out. Till next time, thanks for being here. That's Matt. That's Stephanie. I'm Damian. This is XtremeAg Cutting the Curve.
That's a wrap for this episode of Cutting the Curve. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.farm for more great content to help you squeeze more profit out of your farming operation.